Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, I have been in this hobby of surround sound slash home theater for the last 20 years or so. I would say, yeah, safely 20 years, Nothing professional, nothing expensive, basically a little mishmash of different pieces of equipment here and there, that I would put together to create something spectacular, if you know what I mean. And over those years, I have been able to try different brands of receivers. If you're new to this, the home theater receiver is the heart of the system, right? This is where all the decoding is done for surround sound formats. This is where amplification is done. And this is how you kind of interact with the system through your home theater, to your home theater receiver, right? So so like I've said, I have seen the technology evolve over the years, and I've been able to try different brands, right? I've tried some of the more popular brands, like for example Marantz, right? I think I've owned maybe 2 Marantz receivers. I've owned several Yamaha receivers, right? I've owned several Denon receivers, right? Then I've tried other brands like Pioneer. I currently have a Pioneer in my rack behind me here. I've owned Technics. I have owned Panasonic. I've owned Panasonic. Panasonic and Technics, they made receivers back in the day. Not in the business of that anymore, but they did. And so I've been able to try all of those brands. And as the technology evolve, I've been able to see the transition, pardon me, of all the different formats. I'm talking about the surround sound formats now, that would have, arrived and come on the scene. For example, I remember when Dolby Pro Logic, this was, well, not even Dolby Pro Logic, that was like, back in the day of the VHS. I remember when Dolby Digital came on the scene. Man, that was like a revolution or an evolution of surround sound. Dolby Digital 5.1, where you would throw a disc inside your DVD player and your receiver would kind of decode all of those channels separately. 5 surround channels, left, right, center, 2 surround back, which is what I'm kind of still running up to this day, and I'll get back to that in a minute. So I've seen Dolby Digital, and then the other variations of the Dolby surround format. For example, Dolby Digital EX, Dolby Digital ES, right? Was there Dolby Digital ES? No, that was DTS ES, and the regular DTS. And of course, we are in a period now where we are doing Dolby Digital. We are doing Dolby Atmos. That's what I want to say. Oh man, this is what happened when you're doing a video and it's not scripted. Guys, I don't bother with the scripting. I just try to speak from my heart and what I can remember. So we're in a period right now where we are doing Dolby Atmos, right, and DTS-X, right? And of course, there are other variations of the surround sound format. So I've been able to live through and still experiencing, the different surround formats over the years. Now, when it comes to gear, I have tried quite a few receivers, like I said, and I have, tried the different. Each manufacturer have a different way of implementing how their products are designed. I'm not talking so much about the electronics per se, but more so about the external features and maybe a little bit of the software. if you have been in this hobby for a long time, I'm sure you might have come across one piece of gear or two that really speaks to you, that have given you, I should say, a memory, some really good memories. And even though the technology may have moved on, you might have held on or still holding on to a certain piece of gear from the past. And this is what I want to talk about today, right? As the technology has evolved over the years, I have tried over the last 3 years, I have tried Dolby Atmos. This being a new surround format, I've tried DTS-X with different brands of receivers. But the problem that I've had, and I think I have alluded to that in an older video on this channel before, is the fact that I was not able to kind of make use of 4 high channels for Dolby Atmos. For the most part, I have never really enjoyed what Dolby Atmos had to offer, if I may put it that way. I still believe in the format, and I still believe that, I have yet to experience the true power or the true immersiveness of Dolby Atmos. But, I have tried at least 2 Yamaha receivers with Dolby Atmos, and at least 2 Denon receivers with Dolby Atmos, running just 2 high channels. But I have never really felt much going on in those high channels. I have always been left wanting, if you know what I mean. And so, there was always this feeling of dissatisfaction whenever I tried to run a Dolby Atmos setup. I just felt dissatisfied, so I just end up abandoning Dolby Atmos per se, until the day, I'm able to probably do 4 high channels, or maybe more than 4, and at least, a few more bed channels, if you know what I mean. But apart from that too, even though I have, I was not happy with Dolby Atmos, many of the receivers that I've tried over the years, they're good, or they were good. Don't get me wrong. The problem I had with Yamaha, and I don't want to make this video for too long, I love Yamaha. I think Yamaha has always been one of my favorite brands because I love their products. I think the internals are just well designed. But I've always found Yamaha products to be a little bit, their sound, a little bit on the, I don't know how to describe it, not very warm, not very immersive, if I may use that word. I really do not find Yamaha products immersive per se. But I love their hardware. And the opposite end, I love Denon. I love the immersiveness of Denon surround sound. So for that reason, I've always gravitated. I think I've owned more Yamaha receivers than Denon, but I kind of prefer the way Denon, the sound from Denon. One of my first receivers going way back then, I would say maybe around 15 years ago, is a Panasonic receiver that I still owned and use up to today. For some reason, I've always come back to this receiver. And like I said, over the span, if you have been in this hobby for a long time, I'm sure you might have come across a piece of gear that you just want to hold on to, right? And today I want to show you this piece of gear here. This is a Panasonic receiver. It's a low profile receiver. Here it is. It's a low profile receiver about half the height of the regular receivers that we have nowadays. I think it's only Marantz and probably only Marantz and maybe a few units from Pioneer that are in the, come in this kind of slimline kind of a slimline body, if I may say that. Yeah. So this Yamaha, I'm gonna just turn it around and show you the back. This I'm calling, man, I'm really getting my feet in my mouth today. This Panasonic was released, guess when? Guess how long ago? 2005. So you can do the math. This thing is 20 years old and it is still going strong. But for whatever reason, this has been my favorite receiver of all time, guys. This unit here, while it is obsolete by today's standard, has been my favorite receiver of all time. There is something about this that I've always gravitated back to it. Now, like I said, by today's standard, it is obsolete. If you look at this thing still has S video out. It still has S video out. It still has component video inputs. Yeah. It has component video inputs, right? Not only that, take a look at the speaker terminals here. It has only, two sets, or should I say two pairs of banana plug, and the rest of them are just kind of, they're not even spring loaded. They're more kind of pressure loaded clips, Yeah. And in terms of inputs, it has all the legacy, RCA inputs. It has two optical inputs and one optical out. Right? The remote that comes with this thing is one of the ugliest remotes ever. But there is something about this that causes me to come back to it every time, and I think it's just the sound that I get from it. It is the sound from this thing is so rich. It's 100 watt per channel. It's a 5.1, or should I say 6.1, because not only does it have left, right, left, center, right, two surround at the back, but it also has a center back, right? It also has a center back, right? It does Dolby Digital EX, Dolby Digital. It does ProLogic 2, DTS EX, DTS, and DTS. It's called Neo 6. I'm not even sure what that is for. And it has a digital amplifier. Now, I don't know if I should call this a Class D amplifier, but if it's a digital amplifier, then there's some Class D, implementation inside, right? Right? No, I mean, there's a little bit of difference. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of calling something Class D versus a digital amplifier, right? But there's a little bit of gray area there. But this is amped up. It's written right on the front here. A high quality, full digital amplifier, and I think this is one of the reasons why Panasonic was able to make it so slim. Lifting this thing, it's easy for me to just lift with one hand, Not that it's featherweight, but it's fairly light compared to a standard receiver. But there is just something about this receiver, guys, and I think I've alluded to that in another video before. There is just something beautiful. The only thing I am lacking in this receiver, the only thing that I'm lacking is HDMI. To be honest with you, the only thing I wish this receiver had was HDMI. And so because it doesn't have HDMI, I have to be very creative in the way I can hook up my Blu-ray player to the system. It's a good thing my Blu-ray player has an optical out. So what I do, I take the optical out from my Blu-ray player to the optical in on this, and then I take the video from the Blu-ray player straight to the TV for video, right? I take the what did I say? Did I say optical? What did I say? Anyway, I take the HDMI from my Blu-ray player straight to the TV, and the optical from my Blu-ray player into the optical of this unit for audio. So essentially, I can't get 7.1 because, well, obviously not, because this is not even a 7.1 system. So I'm still rocking a 5.1 setup here, guys, and trust me, I am loving it. I am not missing a thing. I love this amplifier. I love the way it sounds. I love the power, the bass coming out. The bass coming out of this combined with the bass of my sub would shake down this house, believe it or not. The only drawback also of this is that it has only one subwoofer out. But there is something about this unit that has always drawn me in. Like I said, I have tried all the more popular brands over the years, and I've always been drawn back to this receiver. And it's obsolete by today's standard, because think about it, no HDMI, right? I can't even do ARC or eARC on this thing, right? Outdated speaker connectors, with all these little spring-loaded things here. But trust me, guys, trust me when I tell you this. This thing, it rocks. This thing, it doesn't even have a calibration microphone. I have to calibrate this thing the old-fashioned way by taking measurements with a tape measure just to get my seating position correct. And I just can't let it go. So currently I have a Pioneer Dolby Atmos system in my rack just behind this, just behind, in front of me here, or should I say behind my camera. And I'm going to be taking out this Pioneer because I don't love it. I find the sound coming from it kind of dark. There's no dynamics. This has dynamics, right? It has clarity. That Pioneer, it has all the bells and whistles, HDMI, all the bells and whistles, but the sound is just dull. Compared to this thing is lively, it is punchy, it's dynamic, it's powerful, when I'm listening to this, the dialogue comes through with clarity. I don't know why Panasonic has stopped making receivers. Why they gave up on this, but gave up on making receivers. But man, this thing is just it just moves me. It just moves me every time I use it. So I'll be taking out my the Pioneer from my system, which has, like I said, it has all the bells and the whistles about it, but I don't enjoy it, and that has been the case with quite a few receivers that I've owned over the years. I don't enjoy the sound from a lot of them. Maybe a few of the Denons that I've owned, because I still find Denon receivers, like I said, in terms of sound quality and immersiveness in surround, those were kind of my favorite. I love Yamaha for their reliability and the design and all of that. But I found Yamaha's sound a little bit cold and sterile. I may get into trouble, for Yamaha lovers for saying this, but I think I have owned no less than about 6 Yamaha receivers over the years, including Dolby Atmos units. And I've always found the sound from Yamaha, even though it was one of my favorite brands, to be a little bit sterile and just lacking in I don't know how to describe it. So yeah. So what I'm driving at, guys, is that it doesn't mean that just because it's old, it's cold, right? Not because it's old, why it's cold. This thing is 20 years old. 20 years old, and it is still rocking. I love it. I really love it, and I'm going to be putting it back into my rack sometime this week. 5.1 only. It's lacking a lot of the features that are present on modern day receivers. There's no internet connectivity. I cannot update the firmware. No HDMI. But who cares? If you have a system and it works for you and you love it, like another reviewer would say, the only person who have to love your system is you, right? I'm not stealing his line. You know who that guy is. He's one of my favorite reviewer. So, bottom line, if you have a piece of gear and you love it and it's working for you, and even though, there might be new technology, around you, and, these new technologies are, I kid you not, they're so enticing. They are so attractive, but it doesn't mean that because it's new, you're gonna love it, and that's my case right now, right? So I'm gonna be sticking with this piece of I'm gonna be sticking with this receiver until it dies. I'm gonna be sticking with this receiver until I can't hear anything from it anymore. Because the bottom line also is that, who needs, well, I can't say that. What I'm trying to say, guys, I think 5.1 is good enough for me. I have done 7.1, 7.2. I've done Dolby Atmos, DTS:X. But at the end of the day, I have found that 5.1 is good enough for me. I'm able to calibrate my system well. I have done the microphone calibration, and I've done the manual calibration with the tape measure, like I have to do with this. And I've always found that once the system is calibrated well, in terms of speaker distance, in terms of subwoofer levels, Everything is in phase, all your speakers are in phase, and all of that. I have found 5.1 to be just satisfying and adequate. And if you have been watching the trend over the last, I would say, 5 years or more, a lot of people are ditching the surround sound, the full surround sound system like I'm talking about here, just for a sound bar. Now, I don't think I would ever go to a sound bar, to be honest. They say never. But no, I'd rather do a 2-channel setup with an amplifier for my TV rather than doing a sound bar, So, and which is something I actually have in my bedroom, 2-channel setup from my TV. Yeah, so the only person, that the system has to satisfy is you. All right? So that's all I want to share today, guys. Your system might be old, but if it's working for you, keep enjoying it. Don't throw it out. All right? Now, I know this video was going to be a bit long, but I hope you're able to stick around with me. And, if you love these little talks from time to time, give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. These are just conversations. I don't want to get into the weeds with the specs on this channel, I know from time to time I'll have to talk about specs, but that's not the intention here. I just love talking about home theater and surround sound, and if I can offer a little tip here and there, I do that. Like in this case, which I think is a great tip. The way I connect, my my 4K player, Blu-ray player to this. I take the optical out from the player into this, right? And I take the HDMI from the player to the TV. Now, one of the things I've always watched out for is lip sync issues, because everything is not going through the receiver. So that was all, but I've never had lip sync issues, So that is how I kind of run my little setup. I've done this way before, and I'm going to be going back to it again. All right. So thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for sticking around, for this little talk here, and come back again. All right. Take care now, and thank you for watching. Okay. Bye-bye.